The 2024 Candidates tournament is right around the corner, and this year is a must-watch. It's probably the most important tournament in chess and gathers the best chess players in the world. Actually, the almost best chess players in the world, and set them to clash among themselves for a spot to defy the world champion, currently Dingliren. This year is going to be a must-watch because two firsts are happening. For the very first time in its 70-year history, the tournament will be held in North America, and also for the very first time, the Women's Candidate Tournament will happen at the same time and at the same venue as the Open Tournament. And you'd think that will be enough to make this tournament a must-watch, but I got a lot more for you. We got a huge underdog, very likely the biggest underdog this tournament has ever seen, and he will be replacing the GOAT himself, Magnus. We also got the crazy race for qualification by Firouzja that some players even said was a bit immoral. And of course, the drama of the time control between the Women's and the Opens tournament. I want to thank you for joining me. I'm John, your host, and this is ImpostorChess. Okay, let's quickly talk about the tournament structure. It's going to be 8 players, and they're going to play a double round robin tournament. Now, what the hell is a double round robin? It's quite simple. A round robin is when a player plays once every other player in the field. A double round robin is, well, double that. Let's take as an example one of the players, Nakamura. So Nakamura will be playing all the other 7 players once with the white pieces and then one more time with the black pieces. So that's why it's a double round robin. So as a consequence, we will have 14 rounds of play. If a player wins a match, he wins 1 point. If he draws, half a point, and if he loses, of course, no points. At the end, the player who has the most amount of points win the tournament and get to sit at a table against the world champion Dingliren. Now, a fun fact is that this year we have 3 players from India and 2 players from the US. So to avoid any type of collusion between players of the same nationality, FIDE made sure to include in the rules that those players should play among themselves in the first rounds of play. This means that the players from India will play among themselves in rounds 1, 2, and 3, and then in rounds 8, 9, and 10. Now let's talk about time control. It will be 120 minutes for the first 40 moves of the game. After that, starting in the move 41, they'll have an additional 30 minutes in their clock, and also starting in move 31, every move they make, they'll have an increment of 30 seconds. So yeah, these games can go pretty long. The weird though is that the women's tournament will be different. Instead of the 120 minutes of the Open tournament, the women will have 90 minutes for the first 40 moves. After that is the same as the Opens tournament, a 30-minute increment starting in the move 41, and of course, 30 seconds after every move. Now you might be asking yourself why the time difference, and I also don't know why. Somebody in FIDE's back office decided to make this decision. I think it's weird, and a lot of people thought it was weird as well. In the internet you could see a lot of people raging about this, but FIDE made sure to say in a tweet that women were consulted and agreed upon this change. I have no words for this. Chess is not a physical game, it's a mental game, and there should be absolutely no difference between the Opens and the Women's, but here we are. We also have differences between the Women's and the Opens tournament when it comes to money. The winner of the Opens will win 48,000 euros, the second place 36,000, and the third 24. In addition to that, each player will win 3,500 euros for each half point earned during the tournament. The winner of the Women's tournament, though, will win 24,000 euros, the second place 18,000, and the third 12,000. And for each half a point, each player will win 1,750,000 euros. Now, of course, these are obvious differences between the Women's and the Opens, but one thing they do have in common is the location and the time the tournament will happen. For the very first time in its over 70-year history, the Women's tournament and the Opens tournament will happen at the same time and at the same venue. And speaking about venue, also for the very first time, the tournament will be held in North America. It's crazy to think that this tournament is going to be in North America for the first time, given a lot of famous players that are from this continent. But there you go, it will be in North America, more precisely in Toronto, Canada. Okay, finally, let's talk about the players. How do you even qualify to a tournament like this? Well, FIDE decides how to qualify, and the rules again are a bit different between the Women's and the Opens tournament. For the Women's Candidate tournament, FIDE gave 1 spot for last year's World Championship runner-up, and that was Lei Qingji from China. They also gave 2 spots for the top 2 finishers in the World Grand Prix. Now the first place in that tournament was Katarina Lagno, and the second place was Alexandra Goryachkina. Both of them are from Russia, but they're going to be using FIDE flags, because Russia got banned over the war in Ukraine. Now I'm going to be saying a lot of names here and I'm really bad at pronouncing names, so forgive me. The next 2 spots are for the top 2 finishers in the 2023 Grand Swiss, and that was Vaishala Rameshabu from India and Ten Zongi from China. 2 more spots were given for the top 2 finishers in the Women's 2023 World Cup. Now, the winner of that tournament was Alexandra Goryachkina from Russia. But as you recall, Alexandra also qualified by finishing second in the Women Grand Prix. So the 2 spots went for the second place, Nurgul Salimova from Bulgaria and Anna Muzykuch from Ukraine. And 1 final spot is given to the highest rating woman in January of 2024, and that was Humpy Konero from India. Now, Hu Weifan had a higher rating than Humpy this year, but she didn't qualify because she didn't meet the minimum criteria of 30 games in a year. Now to the Open Tournament players. FIDE also gave 1 spot to last year's World Championship runner-up, and that was Ian Nipo from Russia. We also got 3 spots for the top 3 finishers in the 2023 World Cup. The winner of the World Cup was the GOAT himself, Magnus Carlsen. Now, Magnus decided to forfeit his spot right off the bat, and over the last few months he gave many interviews saying that he wouldn't play, so there's no big surprise there. You might even remember that he was the world champion at 2022. Now, the reason that he didn't want to play that tournament are the same reasons that he doesn't want to play the candidates. Since we're very close friends, I give him a call and try to convince him to play because, let's face it, we want to see Magnus play, but he wouldn't budge. And here's the TLDR of the conversation that we had. Magnus just doesn't like how the world champion is defined. You see, right now, the world champion, Ding Liren, is just sitting in a chair with a crown on his head, just waiting for one of the 8 candidates to win and then play against him for the world champion title. And Magnus thinks this is so according to Magnus, the world championship should be defined kind of like how the World Cup is, with a huge field of players playing among themselves and letting the best player win. No reigning champion privileges. And if you think about it, a lot of sports are like this. Tennis, soccer, football, you name it. The winners of last year's tournament is not automatically qualified to the finals of the next year. If a player or a team wants to win, they have to consistently keep beating all other players or teams. But chess is not alone in the way they decide who is a world champion. Think about UFC fighters, for example. There is a title owner, the guy that holds the belt, and he just waits for other fighters to qualify and defy him for the belt. So moving on, without Magnus on the field, the 3 spots of the World Cup went for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th places. Praggnanandhaa from India finished 2nd, Fabiano Caruana from the USA finished 3rd, and Nijat Abasov from Azerbaijan finished 4th. Now, I am very excited that Abasov is in this tournament, and the reason for this is because he is probably the biggest underdog this tournament has ever seen. You see, he qualified because he finished 4th in the World Cup, and that tournament has a field with over 200 players. Yes, over 200 players played the World Cup. Now, his journey in the World Cup is nothing short than amazing, and I want to make a video just about it, but here's a very quick TLDR. He passed through the first 2 rounds with no big surprises, but then he had a huge win on the 3rd round against Anish Giri, seed number 5. This was a great win for Abasov and fired him up to trump over Svidler and Saleh in the 4th and 5th rounds. In the quarterfinals, he faced his 2nd biggest trial, where he played against Santosh. Now, Abasov was able to win him with a very slight difference of half a point, earning him a spot in the semifinals. In the semifinals, he was matched against Magnus Carlsen, where he did put up a good fight, but not enough to win. Regardless, because Magnus not playing the candidates, finishing 4th in this tournament earned him a spot. Just to have a reference of how big of an underdog he is, Abasov is not even in the list of the top 100 rated players, and he will be among the 8 trying to get a spot to defy the world championship. Can you imagine Abasov world champion? I mean, that would be crazy. Okay, moving on. The next 2 spots were given to the top 2 finishers of the Grand Swiss tournament. The first place went for Santosh from India. By the way, this is the same guy that lost to Abasov in the quarterfinals of the World Cup. The 2nd place of the Grand Swiss tournament was our favorite streamer, Hikaru Nakamura from the USA. FIDE also gave 1 spot to the winner of the 2023 FIDE circuit. Now, the FIDE circuit is a system comprising the top chess tournaments over the last year, and players, as they play these tournaments, earn points, and the player with the most amount of points by the end of the year wins the circuit. And the winner of the circuit was Fabiano Caruana, but remember that he also finished 3rd in the World Cup, so the spot went to Gukesh from India. And the final spot went for the highest rated player in January 2024 that hasn't qualified for the candidates yet, and that player was Elireza Firouzja from France. Now, the way that Firouzja qualified for this spot is crazy. You see, back in December, he was not the top rated player. It was Wesley So from China, and there was no clear path how Firouzja will win enough points to surpass Wesley and qualify for the tournament. So the Chocolate Chess Club from France decided to give Firouzja a little help. They scheduled a micro tournament between Firouzja and 3 other grandmasters. All of these 3 grandmasters are considerably lower rated than Firouzja. Now, given that the other 3 players were so lower rated than Firouzja, he needed to win all 6 games in order to earn enough points to get to the candidates. He won 5 and drew the last. And to add to that drama, one of the games that he won against Andrei Shekachev was a bit suspicious. Check this position out. Rouge is playing white here, and he saw black's rook undefended, so he decided to attack. Now Andrei, with the black pieces, made the natural move of moving his rook out of the way, but that allowed Firouzja to move his knight to a5, threatening a fork if he moves his knight later on to c6. But Andrei didn't start playing chess yesterday, so he moved his rook out of the e7 square. But that didn't stop Firouzja from putting his knight on c6, attacking the rook. Now you can see right away that the computer did not like this move, and the reason is quite simple. There is no real threat here. Andrei can just move his rook to c8 and the game would continue. In fact, the computer now says that the game is completely tied right now. But believe it or not, in this position, perfectly tied, the grandmaster Andrei Shekachev decided to resign the match, giving a full easy point to Firouzja. I mean, is it just me, or that sounded kind of like a gift? Anyways, none of that really matters because Firouzja drew the last game in this tournament and did not earn enough points to surpass Wesley So. On top of that, a lot of players went against this tournament. I mean, the field of players, the other 3 grandmasters that were playing against Firouzja were considerably lower rated than him. They were very cherry-picked to be easy targets for Firouzja to earn points towards the candidates. Wesley So, which was at that time the highest rated player, openly criticized the fact that he also had the opportunity to participate in such kind of tournaments, but he decided not to do because he didn't agree with the morality of them. Even the United States Chess Federation wrote a formal letter to FIDE asking them to not rate Firouzja's games. So the pressure was on FIDE and they decided last minute to not rate these matches. Now Firouzja was again in square one. He didn't have enough points to qualify for the candidates. Now, what to do? He was about to go on and play the Rapid and Blitz World Championship, but he decided to forfeit that tournament with all the best players in it to go on and play the Open de Rouen in the interior of France with a field of players so much lower rated than he was. In fact, the first prize of this tournament is $700. He decided to play this tournament because he calculated that if he won all 7 matches in that tournament, he would have enough points to surpass Wesley So, and that's what he did. He went to this very small tournament, crushed everybody in it, and gained just enough points to surpass Wesley So by January of 2024. And before we say bad things about Firouzja, a close friend of mine, let's just remember that Open de Rouen, although very small tournament, is an open tournament. So Wesley So could go there and play himself. I guess that's his loss. So what do you think? Who will win the candidates? Who are you rooting for? I know I'm rooting for Abasov. I love an underdog. Anyways, it's going to be an exciting tournament and we're going to talk all about the matches right here in Imposter Chess. See ya.